Hi everyone, I just wanted to do a short little recap on Module 3 and then an introduction to Module 4 to kind of get you going for the week. So Module 3, we had a number of things actually to try and accomplish. Y'all did a great job with your discussion posts. There are so many great resources and best practices out there. And I think the important thing with that activity was to be able to have a handle on some good places to go to get information and realizes that there's going to be pros and cons. Not everything is going to be wonderful, but we have to weigh those pros and cons for our own particular situation. So I appreciate all the great responses and comments in the discussion topic. You also, for your assignment, did a digital blog post, number B, on chapter 2, which is great. And then thirdly, I asked you to create a Delicious account. And I realized that there were some issues with Delicious. Sometimes that happens with Web 2.0 tools. And I did post a announcement with some alternatives, one being Evernote and the other one being Diigo. Both of them I use in addition to Delicious, so I would certainly recommend them. But you choose. And if you didn't get that done this past week, then work on it this week. It's one of those things that you will need to have by the end of the semester, but it's also one of those things that you have to add to each week to make it a valuable tool for yourself. Okay, so great job with Module 3. We're on to Module 4, and I want to look at what you have going in terms of the expectations for Module 4. Module 4 is actually a relatively short, let me get here, relatively short module in terms of to-dos. Instead, there's a lot more reading and a lot more content to look at here. So one of the things you'll be focusing in on is learning theories, which you may have had in another class. This is just a brief overview. But the reason I add this in, there's a little bit in the chapter about it, but at the collaborative lesson plan, which is upcoming in a few more weeks, you'll be asked to create a lesson plan and then determine what learning theory you or theorist you base that on. So you need to have a basic understanding of that. The other thing is on project-based learning, and again, when you're asked to write a collaborative lesson plan, you will need to do something that is based on more of a project rather than a very traditional lesson of a teacher delivering content and students regurgitating that on a test. Project-based learning provides you with a nice, again, foundation for the kinds of expectations when you develop your own collaborative lesson plan, which you will be doing as a team. There is a digital blog post that is due. This one is on chapter 3, but it is optional. The reason it's optional is that there are a number of blog posts that I'm not requiring. If you do them, however, not only will you get more experience in writing and learning, but at the end of this semester, you'll be doing a big project that is a teacher portfolio. And one of the things that will be on the rubric for that is having done some optional activities. So this is one of the optional activities that would count towards that. The other thing that I'm going to share with you here is the one thing that I saw a number of questions on in doing blog post number B, and that was how to embed your digital tool. And again, we're looking at you growing to doing digital tools that are beyond putting in a video and creating a digital tool for your upcoming blog posts. These creations can be done with things like Prezi or Toondoo or Storybird, or I've got a bunch of them listed right here. And most of them are embeddable. For example, Padlet is to be embedded, not just take a screenshot of it and then put a link underneath there. That's not the same thing as embedding. So for embedding, what you'll want to do is slide down here to where it says, please see this how to for embedding your link. And when you click on here, you'll get to a little screencast that shows you, demonstrates for you how to do that with a number of different tools. But the main key is to look for a embeddable code. And then here's the trick. Once you've got that embeddable code, normally you would type in here, okay, and you would type in your information. But when you have HTML embeddable code, what you need to do is make sure that even if you've typed in some things here, that you're going to go to HTML and you're going to type or paste in the embeddable code that you've picked up from whatever creation you have, whether it be Prezi or Emaze or Powtoons or whatever it happens to be. Once you've done that, you can go back to Compose and add more information underneath. But you need to make sure that you do it in the HTML code tab. The other thing I wanted to mention is when you start using photographs. Photographs are very, very much abused in our copy and paste world, like a book that someone has published. A photographer has created that photograph, and you do not have permission to use that in your blog unless you have asked and received for it in writing, which doesn't typically happen. Not that it can't happen, it's just there's not time to have that process going. So it's not okay to take a picture from Google or from another website or anything like that unless you know that that picture or that photograph or for that matter, that clip art has been, and it shows specifically, listed as a public domain or Creative Commons licensed. Otherwise, you have to assume it is copyrighted. And when you take something that's copyrighted without permission, you have essentially broken a federal law. And it is punishable by fines and prison. So, yeah, you may not get caught, but if you publish it out on the web, you're almost crying for that attention. So it's not only illegal, but not ethical to be doing that. So it's a really good habit to get into, not only for yourself, but also for, as a teacher, modeling for your students how to best provide good digital citizenship and giving credit where credit is due only on objects that have been given permission for that. And I know it's hard to understand because in our world with the web, and most of you have not known anything other than the web, you think, hey, if it's out there, somebody put it out there, it's for me to take and grab and copy and paste. But it's not. And you need to understand that you could get into a fair amount of trouble for that, but you also need to understand that that is something that you can get around by using the proper tools. So very quickly, if you wanted to use a photograph, you insert image, you go to from a URL, then you go over to a site called Flickr where there are, and you can do it with Google as well, but I'm going to show you Flickr. And actually, there's a couple of places that you can do it, but this is the one that I've kind of advertised in our settings. So what you do is you go to search, and I'm going to search, let's see, I want to search for a picture of a computer. Now, right now, it's any license, so it's picking up every single computer that's out there, whether it's Creative Commons license or copyrighted. So we want to change that license to Creative Commons. And then once you have scrolled down here and find one that you like. And let's see, I'll just pick this one right here. You're going to come over here to the little down arrow that indicates download, but instead of actually downloading one, you can view all sizes and then right click on the image and copy the image address. Come back over to Blogger and paste it in here. It will provide that photo and you can add that selected photograph. You can also make it larger or smaller. And just as importantly, you've added a Creative Commons licensed photo, but now you need to add a caption that gives that specific attribution. Don't ever, ever, ever say photo credit to Google or Flickr. There are hundreds of thousands of photographs on both sites. That does not help us to understand where I can access that photo again. So this is a Creative Commons licensed photo, credit to. We need to then go back to, I'm going to actually go back to the photo, and we can see that the photographer is called Big Oak Flickr. Okay, it doesn't sound like a real name, but that's what we're going to give credit to. And then we are going to hyperlink. So we highlight Big Oak Flickr, we go to link, and we're going to put the web address of this particular photograph. So I'm going to copy this URL. I'm going to go back to the web address and paste and say OK. And now let's just go ahead and say this is a test post, which I will delete later. I will publish this. I will view it. So now as a reader, I can read the content, I can see the photograph, I would see the attribution for the photo and know that it is not copyrighted. Creative Commons license means that you have been given permission to use it as long as you give attribution to it. Public domain is the same, a little bit different licensing impact there, but basically those two you can use as long as you see that they are Creative Commons licensed. And I'm going to go back to here and show you that this shows that Creative Commons licensure. Some rights reserved. If we click on it, Creative Commons license, we're free to share, we're free to adapt for any purpose, even commercially, which is kind of unusual. That is how you would give attribution to it. And as a reader, I can actually click here and go directly to the photograph so that if I wanted to use it or get more information about it, I have access there. So that's really critical to do. Okay, so let's go back to our module 3 then, module 4 then, and see that that's pretty much in a nutshell what is on the agenda for this week. Since it is a relatively less demanding week, if you have time, I would strongly suggest that after you've completed Module 4, you go ahead into Module 5, because there's not only a blog post, but also a project on creating a rubric and critique on a website evaluation. So you could go ahead and get started in that if you choose. All right, so if you have any questions, let me know. Please